You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Good morning if you are on the East Coast. If you're not on the East Coast, then good evening. This is the JD Rucker Show, and I'm glad that you are here. Apologies for yesterday's show. This is where I am supposed to wink and nod about having camera issues, and it's totally not the NSA. And in reality, it's not, because my camera ended up working the next morning. Actually, technically speaking, I could have gone live last night, but like at around, I don't know, it's about half an hour, I'm fiddling around with the camera and trying to not have to go, because these aren't cheap cameras. Okay, they're not like super expensive. I'm not a high roller or anything, but you know, you got to spend a few $100 on these cameras to get them, you know, high quality. I would probably try to get more higher quality, but you know, then it brings out the blemishes in the face. This is good enough for now. So welcome. And it was funny that yesterday's show didn't technically happen. Well, it didn't happen at all. There's nothing technical about it, but it didn't happen because it was just an absolutely tremendous news day. This was shortly after. Yeah, I was super excited to talk about Trump wanting to take over Gaza. You know, it's like, wow. And I will be talking about that later in the show. But I was thinking to myself, my gosh, everybody's going to freak out about this, and there's really no reason to freak out. You know, you have to understand Trump. You have to understand the art of the deal. You have to listen very, very, very carefully to his words. And it was back, I guess it was, I was talking to a car salesman 30 years ago, probably. Maybe not that long. Anyway, so I was talking to a car salesman one time, and he said, he used a line on me. He said, I don't know if I can, but if I could, would you do this? And, you know, if I could meet your demands, basically. And it was the way, you know, he was like, he leaves, he basically shakes my hand, says, congratulations, I'm going to get this done. Comes back, and he didn't get it done. But he acted as if he had gotten it done. I asked him after this. We didn't end up getting the car. Oh no, you know what? Actually, we did end up getting that car. Now that I think about it, that was wow. Maybe I did get sold. But he was telling, you know, I was like, why is that like part of your thing? You know, and this is again after the deal's already basically culminated, so there's no reason for him to lie. I'm like, is that part of your thing? Because, you know, you said that you could get it done, and you were excited, and then you came back and you didn't get it done, but you acted like you got it done. He said, I never said I could get it done. I said, if I could, would you? Would you, if I could buy this, you know, get you this price that you want, would you drive the car home today? You know, it's like, you know, the answer is yes, I would. I end up paying a little bit more, but not much. But anyway, point is that he said, you know, and he explained to me, he said, that's part of the way that we do deals. You know, you don't set a hard line. You don't say, you know, if I get this done for you, then you're going to buy the car. And if I don't get it done for you, then you're not going to buy the car. He said, you always leave levels, degrees, scales of possibility until you can finally get to that sweet spot. He said, there's this, like, you know, think of it like a Venn diagram, except with only two circles. You've got the area where you want to buy the car. You've got the area where we want to buy the car. We just got to find where we intersect. You know, you're going to end up paying a little bit more than you want to pay. I'm going to end up selling it for a little bit less than I want to sell it for, but we come together happily. And if we can't meet, then the deal was never going to get done in the first place. And I'm like, my gosh, what wisdom from this very old guy, you know, from this old car salesman, right? Well, listening very carefully to what Trump was saying, at no point did I think, oh my gosh, we're going to invade Gaza. You know, I mean, his words were extremely, very well chosen. And you could even see in Netanyahu's responses to his words, it's like, wow, you know, this is, Netanyahu, people said there was a smirk there. And I know there was some that were saying, oh, it's because he's controlling Trump. And then there were others that were saying, oh, he was making fun of Trump. Reality was, you can see this smirk, and what we were witnessing was he was impressed because he knew what the deal was. He knew and he and Trump talked about it before. They've talked about it long before. They talked about it probably before the ceasefire deal, before Trump was even inaugurated. They had talked about it. And his smirk, listening to Trump talking about this, was based around a respect, amazement, maybe amusement even, at how Trump was saying exactly what he needed to say in order to do exactly what we're seeing now. Number one, we're seeing everybody freak out, mostly on the left, some on the right. I mean, you've got some America First people like Rand Paul. They're like, this isn't what we signed up for. And you got people in Europe saying, no, no, no. And you got people in the Middle East saying, no, no, no. It's my European versus Middle East accent attempts. But but at the end of the day, what everybody else is going to end up saying is, yes, we as in they, need to do something about Gaza that's not the same as before. That's not the same as what's been the point of contention for decades. We need to try something different, or else Trump's going to go in there and do something radical. And at the end of the day, what we're going to see is that Gaza, I don't know if Gaza's going to get fixed, but it's going to be different and likely very much better than it was before. The real key, the hint to all this to me, was the fact that just a couple of hours before President Trump declared that basically we were going to go in and rebuild Gaza, didn't declare it, just, so again, insinuated. Just before then, okay, he had Witkoff, his Middle East envoy, going on with Greta Van Susteren, right, over on Newsmax. And he's like, I don't know where everybody's talking about 5 years. It's going to take 10 to 12 years or maybe more to even get going on rebuilding Gaza. It won't be rebuilt. If the ceasefire holds and there's no more fighting and no more bombing at all, if we're starting today as day one, Gaza is not going to get fully rebuilt for 15 years. So don't, and this is him, basically explaining Trump's plan before Trump announces, hey, we're going to go in, it's going to be great. We're going to, take the Palestinian people, we're going to take them someplace nice, get them nice homes and all this other stuff. You can't go back in there. And of course, the White House today walked that back a bit. They're like, no, this isn't like a permanent thing. Anyway, it's amazing watching this stuff. And we'll talk more about that here in a bit. We've got a lot of stories to get to today. I'm going to go through these first batch of stories, relatively rapid fire. If you've got anything you want to say it fast. I'll try to keep my eyes on the chat. Let me go ahead and pin I almost forgot. One of these days, you're going to see where I'm going to get my story pinned, my video pinned on X before the 8-minute mark. So I think we might have set a new record. Today is we're at the 8-minute mark. We were able to get it pinned. Usually it's about the 20 or 30-minute mark. So progress. We like forward progress. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. And these first few stories, I'm going to try to go through them relatively rapid fire. And then we'll get to the big stories. This is the new format of the JD Rucker Show, so to speak, because what we're finding is, number one, they told me, I've always been told, you got to start off the show slow, do a little bit of chit-chat, this, that, or the other, give people time to come in. That's just not my thing. I like to start the show, dive in, let's talk about the news, let's talk about some opinions, let's figure out what conspiracies there are, let's try to save the world, save America, save the world. That's the moral of the story, and I don't like it where, how's your weekend? I was walking my dog earlier today and, slice of life stuff. I just want to do the news. So if you are into stuff like that, and especially if you're new to the show, I invite you, encourage you, I beg you. No, I don't beg, but I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, whatever channel you're watching on, YouTube, Rumble, Brighteon, BitChute, Getter, where else are we? Other places, X. Follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thumbs up, likes, shares. Help us get the word out. We got to get the show built up as big as possible. and I need your help to do it. I can't do. I work all day, every day to get the news out there, but it's just me. There's only, as of now, there's only the one of me. My wife helps too, so she allows this. She's able to do the things that keep me from having to leave my office for very long, to leave the studio for very long. She really takes care of the household so well, goes above and beyond what a lot of stay-at-home moms can do. She's always on top of it. Had to go get my haircut today. She got going, put her stuff aside, and took care of my stuff so I could get my haircut because it was just getting annoyingly long. So, with that said, let's get into this first story. Josh Hawley, Josh Hawley was at one point one of my favorite senators. Did some things, some questionable stuff, things that I wasn't very in agreement with. Started thinking maybe he's getting a little compromised. And here's the thing: no matter how long or no matter how good somebody is when they go into on Capitol Hill, especially if they get into politics, over a period of time, they're going to get corrupted or removed, one or the other. Okay, they will try their best to corrupt people and to control them. Now, a lot of people are able to kind of push back and minimize. I would say, Rand Paul, I'd mentioned him before. Ron Johnson, I've mentioned him multiple times. Paul Gosar, Andy Biggs, who's probably going to be the next Arizona governor. These are guys that I think have been able to have long careers on Capitol Hill and not get as compromised. But everybody gets at least a little bit compromised. There's always something that somebody does. Some sin, something they get caught with. And so there's a little bit of control. But the amount of control that's held over somebody determines how far they'll go. So like Mitch McConnell, for example, or Joe Biden, it's tough to tell between Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. Those three are so compromised that if one of their puppet masters, because I think they have multiple puppet masters, if one of their puppet masters were to say literally kill yourself, I think they would. Kill yourself or we'll expose your sins, we'll expose your evils, we'll kill off your legacy. Now, granted, they're all ancient, so I don't think that they would be it's not like, okay, I guess it's time, Anyway, sorry, this morbid topic. Josh Hawley, though, on again, off again. He's a good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. Not bad guy, but, little swampy, not so swampy. Little swampy, not so swampy. I waffle on him. But in this case, I think that he's got something that may be very good. And then again, it could be also used for bad stuff. According to reclaimthenet.org, DD Rankovic over there, Senator Josh Hawley proposes AI ban targeting China's DeepSeek, threatens jail time and fines. Crazy stuff. U.S. Senator Josh Hawley is looking to expand the U.S.-China tech wars to another front, AI. The move was apparently sparked by the launch of China's DeepSeek AI model, which has become a very popular one in a short amount of time. Hawley, a Republican, responded by introducing the Decoupling America's Artificial Intelligence Capabilities from China Act. I guess that's kind of a good name for it. Usually they don't say what they're trying to do. This one kind of does. Up to 20 years in jail and huge fines for those who willfully download DeepSeek or among some of the more striking possibilities stemming from the bill's wording. We'll see. Some observers have take willfully here to mean that a person not only downloaded DeepSeek, but is also aware it is a Chinese app, which would then have to be proven in court should Hawley's proposal become law. However, this could also affect, for example, Hugging Face, a U.S. company that gives businesses access to code used in evaluating machine learning models, as well as cloud providers, who could no longer be able to, maybe later, who could no longer be able to host any Chinese models or apps. Hawley explained his legislative effort as the need to ensure U.S. economic superiority and that his requires and that this requires preventing money and data flowing to Chinese products and cutting China off from American ingenuity, but also stopping what he called the subsidization of CCP innovation. Hawley's announcement mentions DeepSeek by name, referring to it as a low-cost data harvesting model that has caused international concern, but also sent U.S. tech stocks plummeting. Now, to be clear, I'm not big on any forms of censorship, stifling, anything like that, except when it comes to AI. Okay? No, if they're talking, like, for example, about some other model, some other, I'm a buyer beware kind of guy, right? Even with TikTok, I hate TikTok. And it took a while for me to come around to the idea that TikTok, the freedom to use TikTok is less important than stopping the Chinese Communist Party from infecting the minds of Americans, not just American youths, but Americans in general. That's how big it got. So, it took a while for me to come around on that one. When it comes to AI, look, anything that will slow down the implementation of artificial intelligence into day-to-day lives in the United States of America, I will at least consider. Now, I'm not going to go draconian. I'm not going to go authoritarian on this. And without reading what Hawley's put out there, I can't say intelligently whether this is a good idea or not. But the sentiment, I totally understand. The sentiment is we do need to get at least a little bit more, maybe a lot more, protectionist in regards to the U.S. economy, especially as it pertains to China. And number two, we can't just willfully, you got to have freedoms. And because of those freedoms, China should be allowed to exploit Americans. Okay? It's one thing to do business with us. I'm all for that. I really am. Okay? China's got a great product they want to present to us. It's a product that doesn't compromise us, the United States, doesn't compromise American citizens, doesn't compromise their data, doesn't compromise anything like that. Awesome. Bring it here. We'll buy it. Seriously. I'm not against China as a nation. I'm against China stealing our intellectual property, stealing our people, spying on our people, manipulating our people, as is the case with both TikTok as well as DeepSeek. There's a possibility that they can change us. Again, I encourage people to look at the difference between TikTok, the version of TikTok that they allow in the United States, and the version of TikTok that they allow in China. The TikTok in the United States, if anybody who's been on the algorithm for long enough, and long enough is like 5 or 10 minutes, they will start to realize, if they're paying close attention, if they're watching for it, they'll realize that TikTok is pushing Americans towards bad habits. For example, the whole body positive movement that says, hey, it's okay to overeat tremendously, to get morbidly obese, to harm yourself, and to put pictures of yourself half naked all over the internet. All of this is a good thing, according to TikTok propaganda. And that's like the least of it. We've seen examples of very bad stuff that TikTok pushes people to do. Now, you look at TikTok in China, it's totally different. Okay? They're showing kids skills. I mean, it's like you, a 15-year-old on TikTok in China is learning new skills, learning computer skills, learning fighting skills and sewing skills and whatever. I mean, it's like, it's stay healthy. It's like, what? Why would? And then it's like, oh, well, of course they want to weaken us while they advance their own goals. This week, of course, is going to be a very big week for confirmation. We just had Pam Bondi confirmed as Attorney General. I like her. Okay, I would have rather had Matt Gaetz. I'll admit it. But Pam Bondi, she has been a strong fighter for many of the causes that I believe in. She's one of the few, quote unquote, mainstream or establishment Republicans who fought tooth and nail against 2020 voter fraud, against the stolen election. That puts her way higher up in my book than a lot of other people. She's been loyal to the Constitution, loyal to the United States of America, and she has remained loyal to President Trump. So I'm glad that she's in there and she got confirmed. But there are other bigger confirmations coming. According to Human Events, Gabbard and Kennedy's confirmations kills the old GOP. This is from the Human Events editorial board. This is about realigning the GOP away from its toxic, out-of-touch former brand once and for all and bending it to the pro-working class, pro-peace, and pro-accountability government philosophy which President Trump's visionary leadership embodies. Now, to be clear, look, I have certain challenges with both RFK Jr. as well as Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Kash Patel, I'm perfectly aligned with him. He's great. That's the one. If I can, between the three of them, if I can only have one, I'll take Kash. Okay, I'll take Kash. And sorry, RFK, we'll make America healthy again some other way. Sorry, Tulsi. Sorry, But Kash, we definitely won in there, and I have no ideological misalignment with him. With Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., I do. I have certain things where I wholeheartedly disagree with them. Okay? But the scope of what they're supposed to do, I'm mostly aligned. Okay? RFK Jr.'s desire, his goal to make America healthy again, to have transparency for ingredients, for sourcing, for health risks of certain ingredients, especially GMOs and certain dyes, pretty much all dyes. I mean, you know how they color food in most other countries with actual literal natural colors, like as in like they take the fruit the peelings off this particular fruit and they grind it up and that makes orange or whatever. I don't know how it works, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, I'm perfectly aligned with him on that when he talks about climate change, when he talks about abortion, when he talks about pretty much anything else. Economy, gosh, horrible. Then he and I would go round and round. But when it comes to the thing that he's supposed to do, we don't. And you might say, I know a lot of people say, yes, even Mike Pence was saying, yes, but he's like pro-abortion and he's going to be over HHS, so he's going, no, he's not. Okay. He's not going to do anything with abortion. Cabinet members, for those who don't realize it, cabinet members are simply extensions. They're basically subject matter experts, and they're supposed to get things done based upon the president's agenda. It's not like they have their little fiefdoms and they're out there doing whatever they want. I mean, in most cases they do, by the way. I shouldn't say they don't. In most cases they do pretty much that. They do kind of whatever they want based upon direction from the administration, direction from the president. They have to interpret things, but there's certain things, such as abortion. It's not like we're going to confirm RFK Jr. and then all of a sudden abortion is funded in every state, and across the board by the federal government. That's not going to happen. Okay, the little changes that he's going to make, that he'll make without President Trump's approval, just because they're small and don't need to be wasted on him, they will be consequential of some sort, or maybe not even consequential at all. But when it comes to the important things, is he going to change abortion and make us take us towards more abortions? Absolutely not. That's not going to happen. And if it does happen, then Trump will fire him. Or Trump was involved. Those are the only two options there. Okay. And when it comes to making America healthy again, then we'll see. Now, there's the question of vaccines. Is he backtracking? Did he have to cut deals? I saw some editorials asking, how did he get through committee? Did he make some promises to some committee members? How is it looking like he's probably going to get confirmed? What did he do? Because he's been a champion for vaccine truth since long before COVID-19. He's been doing this for years, decades, right? So did he change his mind? How did he get through? We'll see. Honestly, I don't care nearly as much about the vaccines as I do about the transparency. I'm a big fan of sourcing food. And I'm a big fan of transparency when it comes to pharmaceuticals. Pretty much anything with your health, you should be able to have informed consent. And informed consent requires being informed, which requires information, which requires, apparently, it shouldn't be, but apparently requires RFK Jr. As far as Tulsi Gabbard, look, she's great in a lot of regards. And in what she'll be able to do as Director of National Intelligence, I think she'll be fantastic. The primary role, for those who don't know, the primary role of the DNI is to filter through vast amounts of intelligence information and figure out what the president needs to know about and what the president doesn't need to know about. What can be prioritized, because you got like a 17-minute brief in the morning that you can give every day. They get hours worth of data that they could go over. They get reports left and right. They have to be able to take that, crunch it down, and determine what does the president need to know, what does the president not need to know. What do I need to update? What do I not need to update? What needs action? What does not need action? And I think that she'll do a great job of that. But that's my spiel before we get in the article. This comes again from the Human Events editorial board. This Tuesday, two of President Trump's most controversial and necessary appointees took their first steps towards assuming office. Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his nominee to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, both passed their committee votes, despite worrying initial warning signs that senators such as Todd Young from Indiana or Bill Cassidy from Louisiana might defect. However, those warning signs, thanks in no small part to unprecedented pressure from the Republican grassroots base, such as you, turned out to be false alarms. I wouldn't say they were false alarms. Is it if an alarm goes off and you put out a fire, was that a false alarm? Like a little fire, prevent it from getting big? I would argue that instead of a false alarm, we heard the warning signs and we reacted. And then before the fire started, you had people, look, things are heading in the right direction, sort of, at least, from a Senate perspective, when even Susan Collins is pushing towards confirming Trump's nominees. She hates Trump. She absolutely despises Trump, but something's happening. And I think it's the people. I think it's possible that it's the people that are coming out and saying, hey, yeah, we're good. We're good. You're not. Do what's right. Back to the article, we at least are very relieved. To be sure, this is partially because Gabbard and RFK represent long overdue corrections to the Washingtonian institutions. Gabbard will serve as a corrective to an intelligence bureaucracy that has grown arrogant, insular, and clannish, and which, despite a string of failures, still fancies themselves as the infallible protectors of America. Kennedy, meanwhile, is the worst nightmare of the unholy alliance between America's health care regulators and the pharmaceutical industry, and I would argue big food as well. It's not just big pharma. Big pharma and big food are two totally separate entities, and both equally needing reform, and both equally currently harming American citizens with their actions. So let's not forget them. Pharma, great. Food, also great. Let's make pharma and food great again. All right. Trademark that. If you want evidence of that, just look at the fact that his clearing the committee transformed Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren into a shrieking Karen. Now, to be clear, I disagree wholeheartedly there, because it says that his clearing of the committee transformed Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren into a shrieking Karen. It's not true. She has always been and always will be a shrieking Karen. I could listen to AOC talking and her odd Valley Girl New Yorker style voice. She's like a mixture of Boston College and the San Fernando Valley. It's the strangest thing. I can listen to her talk more easily than I can listen to Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren talking. Her voice grates on me badly, especially when she starts her that really, I don't even want to describe it, and I'm not going to play it for you. Not a chance. Warren, who has received over $5 million from the healthcare industry, has a right to be worried. That's one gravy train that potentially just ran dry, but her funders have even more reasons to be worried, given that Kennedy cheerfully committed under her questioning to not taking their money, and seems bent on suing them for any improprieties he discovers. So we've got good things coming there. I do think, and CNN, Harry Enton came out and said that it's like about a 90% chance that everybody else gets through. On average, there's three appointees, presidential appointees, their first term. Technically, this is obviously Trump's second term, but it's really like his second term or second first term. Yeah, it's like his second first term because he's got to bring in a new cabinet. He didn't, second terms, generally speaking, in the vast majority of cases, you just retain your cabinet for a little bit longer. Some members leave. This time he's replacing an entire cabinet as if it's a first term. So when you compare to the past, there's usually 3 that don't make it through. And the majority of them, it's like they see the writing on the wall, some scandal comes out, they're talking, the whip tells them, hey, you don't got the votes to come out of committee, or hey, even if you come out of committee, you're not going to get the votes on the floor. Rather than suffer the embarrassment of being voted down, they usually just withdraw, right? Well, nobody's withdrawn other than Matt Gaetz. I mean, if Trump can get through Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and RFK Jr., those are the 3 remaining truly controversial ones, at least this week, then it should be smooth sailing unless some scandal breaks. It really should. I mean, at that point, we would have had one appointee who withdrew, and that was Matt Gaetz. So we shall see. Speaking of Big Pharma and the challenges there, if things do go south, God forbid, but then again, I think at this point it seems inevitable. So it'd be more along the lines of Lord willing, things get better fast, right? Except that's not the direction that things appear to be going. I'm not talking about Trump politically speaking. I'm talking about the world writ large. I'm talking about just it seems like we're in the end times, right? And so being ready, being prepared, even when it comes to Big Pharma, is very important, which is why I have a very good relationship and a long-term relationship. Long before even Glenn Beck started talking about him, I've been talking about Jace Medical. They to me do a fantastic job. There are other places that offer the similar, long-term meds where you can get chronic meds or whatever. I've tried them. I have my reasons. I'm not going to go rip on any other companies or call them out by name. But I like Jace, even though to be clear, people will ask me, well, you got Jace. I see like these other company in particular that everybody's promoting. It's like, yeah, they pay like twice as much. But I've looked at the prices, I've looked at the services. I'm still staying with Jace. So just saying, you guys can go listen to whoever you want. I like these guys myself. Whether you've been a prepper for a long time or maybe you're just getting started, you're just looking around and thinking how crazy it is. We usually cover the basics. You get your food, you get your water, you get your ammunition. Don't forget your ammo. You get your battery chargers, solar battery chargers, or whatever. But a lot of times I think people will forget their meds. Okay, whether it's chronic meds, antibiotics, I think a lot of people don't even realize that you can stock up on that stuff. They go to the doctor, they go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist said, oh, here's your 2-month supply or whatever. Well, you can actually stock up on a lot of these meds by going to jdrucker.com/meds. You'll talk to the good folks over at Jace Medical. They can get you a 12-month supply of certain prescription drugs. They can get you emergency meds, all sorts of good stuff, things that you may or may not need, but it's always good to have it on hand because I guarantee you, even if you don't think you need it today, you might need it in the future. jdrucker.com/meds. Is it too early? Oopsie. I'll pull that up. Wrong button. There we go. Darn it. I gave away the next story. Is it too early to start talking about 2028? You bet it is. We still have to get through 2026 election-wise, and that's going to be an extremely important one, arguably, and then you get to hear it every 4 years, but I'll go ahead and say it. I'll be the first one to say it now. 2026 will be the most important midterm election of our lifetimes. There, I said it, and I actually believe it. I didn't say it back in 2022 or 2018 or 2014. I might have said it in 2014. I don't think I did. 2010, that was with Obamacare. That one was a big one. That launched, basically, it literally launched the Mitch McConnell reign as far as let's go after. We're gonna repeal Obamacare. We're gonna repeal Obamacare like 53 times until we till we actually get a Republican president in the White House, and then all of a sudden we won't be able to repeal it. We're big tough guys when we can put a Obamacare repeal on the desk of Obama himself so that he could veto it. But once we got Trump in there, all of a sudden we went John McCain, and I don't even know what kind of accent that was. That was my fake Mitch McConnell accent. Anyway, is it too early to look at 2028? Some people already are. And I have to bring this up, even though it's not important. You know, I think I'm a big, huge fan of JD Vance. I think that JD Vance is, unless something crazy happens over the next 4 years, he should be the de facto nominee in 2028 for the Republican Party. But there's another one out there who's got my ear, got my attention. That, of course, is Donald Trump Jr. And I'm not the only one, apparently. According to Jack Montgomery over at thenationalpulse.com, bookmakers boost Donald Trump Jr.'s presidential odds. Betting patterns suggest that Donald Trump Jr.'s prospects of becoming U.S. president after the 2028 presidential election have significantly improved. Star Sports, a prominent bookmaker, reported 25-1 odds for Don Jr. to assume the presidency, up from 66-1 immediately following the 2024 election. Among Republicans, he is second only to JD Vance in popularity, and a poll by McLaughlin and Associates in late January, finding 21% favor him to become the 2028 candidate against 27% for the vice president. President Donald J. Trump, 78, will likely be unable to... I like how they said it. That's great. Likely be unable. Okay. Constitutional amendment says that he definitely absolutely positively cannot. But stranger things have happened, and I guess if there was ever a time when we could pass a constitutional amendment to expand beyond or somehow loophole in a third term for a president, it would and probably should be President Trump. I'm not endorsing that idea, by the way, to be clear. I'm just saying it's funny that people are like, you know, this is his second and final term, allegedly, or most likely. Love it. Will likely be unable to pursue a third term unless the Constitution is amended, despite some in the corporate media panicking that he may try to circumvent the two-term limit through a constitutionally questionable process involving running for the vice presidency and having a person at the top of the ticket abdicate in his favor following their inauguration. My gosh. Yeah, I've been in the conspiracy theory world for a short period of time, shorter than most who've been doing it. But during that time, I've been able to follow a lot of conspiracy theories, and most of them are right-wing, or at least most of them come from conservative-leaning sources. But when you look at the left-wing conspiracy theories, they think we're crazy. Look, they got all the crazy when it comes to conspiracy theories. Their conspiracy theories, at least the vast majority of ours, make some sense, even if they're a little bit out there, right? But they take the fringe and then they throw the fringe into the wood chipper, they being the left, and come up with the craziest ideas, like that one. Back to the article. Unlike his sister, Ivanka Trump, and his sister-in-law, Laura Trump, Don Jr. has not taken formal positions in President Trump's campaigns or administrations. However, he has increasingly emerged as a de facto representative of the American First movement to the official team, and recently led something like an informal diplomatic mission to Greenland, which President Trump hopes to acquire. And I did think that was telling, by the way, that he sent over Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk and a few others, but sent over his son, who was there allegedly to film and to take footage for a podcast, but sent them over to talk about this stuff. That's pretty telling. I mean, he wants him involved. Don Jr. has been smart and not taken an official role. I think that's a good move. I really do. At least at this stage. You know, you want, and I think he probably learned this from his father. Timing is everything. Don't forget, President Trump was talking about running for president since the 90s. Okay? He strongly considered running. He did technically for a short period of time, was sort of running in 2000, right? Then he was very strongly considering running he was considering in 2008, very strongly considering in 2012, but bided his time. No, not going to do it. Not going to do it. He probably would have won the nomination in 2012, by the way. that week group. There's the Romney, Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, that whole crowd. But fast forward 2016, that was the right time. I would say that Don Jr. and the thing is that was a time when Hillary Clinton was the right opponent, and he could come in and save the day. I think that's what Don Jr. has learned. Don Jr. doesn't want to just, hey, I'm part of the administration, assign this great role. He wants to gallop in on horseback. Okay. Something crazy happens, for example, and let's say, well, it wouldn't be crazy, but let's say Republicans lose control of the House or Senate or both in 2026. That would be a great time after that election loss for Donald Trump Jr. to come in and say, hey, this is BS. I'm thinking about running for Congress or Senate in Florida, starts a PAC, starts a fundraiser, and then, in the meantime, I'm also going to be working as special envoy to this, that, or the other for my father, and, whatever. And then shortly, starts raising money, and then in 2027 says, you know what? I think I need to run for president. I like JD a lot. I can work with JD Vance a lot, but I really think we need another Trump. And so I'm throwing out hypotheticals there. That's no insider information, nothing crazy like that. It's just one crazy dude talking about some crazy things. Americans are overwhelmingly supportive of voter ID laws, and Democrats want to squash them. Do you ever wonder why? I mean, have you ever thought, are they really just cheating so much that voter ID would end their con? And the answer is yes. Article over at Federalist.com, MD Kittle. Americans overwhelmingly support voter ID laws that Dems want to squash. The popular election integrity measures are restoring trust in elections. Governor Gavin Newsom and California Democrats are working to stop them, and they're not the only ones. On January 1st, California's new anti-election integrity law went into effect, prohibiting local governments in the Golden State from requiring voters to show identification to cast ballots in elections. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the restrictive legislation into law a little more than a month before November's historic presidential election. It's certainly not the first time the far-left governor with higher political aspirations has been on the wrong side of the American sentiment. A new Rasmussen poll finds that more than three-quarters of likely U.S. voters, 77%, say requiring a photo ID is a reasonable way to protect the integrity of elections. Just 17% think such measures are unreasonable. The latest numbers are up from 74% support in the 2021 according to the pollster. So 3% rise, and I would say that it's a little bit better than that. But to be clear, 77% is probably huger than most people realize. That's almost consensus, because there's always going to be approximately 20% of people, 20% of Americans, depending upon the issue, between 10 and 20% of Americans that are going to be wrong no matter what. If you took a survey, of Americans, and you asked them, I'm just trying to pick one out of the top of my head, is Joe Biden's mental capacity in 2025 lower than his mental capacity? We'll say mental acuity for accuracy. Is his mental acuity currently lower than his mental acuity when he was vice president of the United States up until January of 2017? Now, the answer is unambiguously 100% yes. But you will get about 20% of people, American voters, who would still say no because they don't know, because they're idiots, or not necessarily idiots. Maybe they don't pay attention. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There is, but there's not. But there is. Or Joe Biden's got that D next to his name, and so they'll always vote opposite of whatever the R would vote for. So again, even something where it's unambiguous like that, you're still going to get 10 to 20% of Americans that vote against. So when it says 77% are in favor of voter ID, that is practically a consensus. There's another consensus that's building out there, and I think that there was a time when I was actually on the wrong side of this particular issue. You have to go back almost 2 decades. But it was approximately, we'll say, over a decade and a half ago. I was of the belief that Google was a decent company. Seriously. If you look back at 2006, 2007, maybe even into 2008, I think at that point I probably had already started shifting. But at least, the 2006, 2007, I thought, you know what, Google seems to be heading in the right direction. They seem to be doing what's good for America, because that's also good for them. In other words, their vision and their goals are aligned with America's needs and America's goals. So it seems to make sense for us to support them. I even got the first, I think it was called the G1, the Google phone. Okay. I actually got that. I'm ashamed to admit that now, but I did. I bought the Google phone. But now it's very clear that they're not a good company. And as a matter of fact, they're not a neutral company. As a matter of fact, they're not even a bad company. They are an evil company. Legitimately evil. Like if you ask me who's more evil, Apple or Google, I would say Google. If you ask me who's more evil, Microsoft or Google, I would say Google. If you were asking me who's more evil, Disney or Google, I'd say it would be a tie. So that's where we stand. Article over at newsnation.com, newsnationnow.com. It's NewsNation is the network's name. Google removes published promise not to use AI tech for weapons. Awesome. Here's a gigantic company with vast, not just money, but vast access to technology, vast ownerships of lands, vast ownership doesn't get nearly covered enough, vast ownership of patents that allows them to do things that other companies simply cannot do. And now they've removed their promise. At least they're semi-honest about it. There was a time, I think their thing was, their motto or whatever was do no evil, right? Well, they took that down. They could have just kept it up, right? And just went about doing more evil. But no, they're like, well, we can't really say that anymore. So let's take that down. All right, yeah, we are going to do evil. Well, now they're like, yeah, we can't really promise that we're not going to use our AI tech for weapons. So let's just take that down. According to the article, the section is no longer listed on Google's AI principles page. Washington is increasingly embracing the use of AI, and policymakers have warned the technology could be used for harm, and almost certainly will be used for harm. Google has updated its ethical policies on artificial intelligence, eliminating a pledge not to use AI technology for weapons development and surveillance, according to a now archived version of Google's AI principles, seen on the Digital Archive Wayback Machine and reported by NewsNation's partner The Hill. The section titled "Applications We Will Not Pursue" include weapons and other technologies aimed at injuring people, along with technologies that gather or use information for surveillance. On Tuesday, the section was no longer listed on Google's AI principles page. Again, they're evil, but at least they're honest about the evil that they do. A lot of times they're just secretly evil. These guys, they're a lot more open with their evil. Take a quick sip of my Promised Grounds coffee, which you can go to by going to jdrucker.com/coffee. Good stuff there. All right, so that's the lightning round, which only took 50 minutes. I got to work on that. I got to make my lightning go a little bit faster, okay? Because that's supposed to only take about 30 minutes, maybe. It took 50. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get into the big stories of the day.
I have one kid. You have 5 kids.
That's what you do.
How do you? That's incredible.
It's kind of like being an FBI agent. You're always kind of monitoring them and making sure everyone's safe.
Makes good sense. I'm actually a real agent. I'm not an agent. I'm actually a deputy sheriff.
Are you really?
Right there. Many years.
Are you serious?
For real life.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're a sheriff.
Yep.
Played at Princeton. Pro football player. Greatest superhero of all time.
Never drafted to Major League Baseball like you for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Thank you very much.
Knuckleballer. How do you hit a knuckleball?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
That's the whole point.
That's the beauty of it. You know, we may have always played on different sides, you know, being the superhero or the supervillain.
Supervillain.
But we have a lot more in common than I thought that we did.
Which is shocking, because one thing's for sure. Genesis Gold Group is a company that we both trust. They make safeguarding your IRA or your 401k as simple as possible. And I need simple,
That's right.
I'll be honest.
And with their stellar reputation, they're as solid as the gold that they sell.
Like this gold right here. So call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD.
What is that?
This is what they call a prepper bar. So like you can break off these, see these little pieces? Oh, it's on both sides.
And it's great because you can carry that around small. And
Oh yeah,
it's not
and you
like-
can literally use it to spend.
Or it's not like this
Think
one.
that-
This,
What?
This is a big fella. This is a really great one.
Is that real?
This is a real one. You want to hold it? It's heavy.
Holy smokes.
That's pretty great. Yeah, you can get them one of those from Genesis Gold yourself.
Hey, you guys see this? Look, check
Dean,
this out.
Dean, that's my kid's college tuition money. Hold on, we'll be back. Dean!
Yeah. Who's the supervillain now, huh?
Yeah, that's my goal, Dean!
I did it again. I keep pushing the wrong dang button. I keep revealing what the next story is before I get to the next story. So let's get to the next story. And this is, again, a big one. We covered it a little bit earlier in the day, or earlier in the show, a little bit. But and yesterday I posted an article over at thelibertydaily.com from Clash Daily that basically said, hey, you know, this is the deal. Well, we're learning more and more. I do believe that that is definitely the case. And I'm referring, of course, to the claim that we're going to take over Gaza. According to M. Dowling over at independentsentinel.com, President Trump isn't taking over Gaza. The White House clarified President Trump's comments yesterday about the U.S. potentially taking over Gaza. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt described Trump's idea as only a temporary relocation of Palestinians while the devastated enclave is rebuilt. Yesterday, he said the Arabs were going to live in other countries and he'd remake Gaza into the Middle East Riviera. I like that thought. It didn't sound like the Arabs were necessarily going back to Gaza. Trump hasn't committed to putting U.S. boots on the ground in Gaza or to pay for the reconstruction, she added. She stressed the president is looking for a deal about Gaza with countries in the region. She's probably hoping the neighbors will foot the bill to fix up Gaza. He should tell Iran to do it. Americans can't afford it. According to Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, the whole region needs to come up with their own solution if they don't like Trump's solution. And therein lies the key. Let me cut the brief story that I learned long ago. Back in my youth, I was a restaurant manager, okay? Cimarron Steakhouse in Oklahoma City. 2-story, 550-seat gargantuan steakhouse. We had this gigantic, like the fence, it was as tall as one of Trump's walls, fence around this yard that we had semi-trucks that would bring in mesquite wood from Mesquite, Texas, okay? Had these giant pits in the kitchen or in the grill. There was no charcoal, there was no gas. It was just giant brick pits. And we'd throw in these logs, mesquite logs, and we'd cook up thousands of steaks a day. Okay, that's the setup. Point being is that it was an extraordinarily busy restaurant. Low dollar steaks, high quality, but low dollar, you know? And so we were always busy. And the general manager, this lady was a dynamo, okay? She would go out there and, like, if it was really busy and she needed tables, she would grab a, one of the busboy bins and grab a towel and she'd just start clearing off tables. Okay. Except I say tables as in that's plural, but it's not. She would go and she would clear off one table and that's it. She would clear off one table. And all of a sudden, all the busboys, which were moving at about 2/3 speed up until that point, before she was done with the first table, they were going at 135% speed. They were practically running. She would go through, do the bus thing, clear off a table, Go back, put the bus thing up, wash your hands, then go back to work, doing her general manager stuff. And I was talking to her one day. I'm like, why don't you just tell the bus boys to work faster? She's like, sometimes you have to scare them with your actions or scare them with words that make them feel like they have to react. You know, if I just say, hey, we need these tables done, they're like, okay, thanks, Doris. Yeah. But if I go out, pick up a bin and just go clear off one table, you watch them. They will go into overdrive. And we will have every table cleared off in like 19 seconds. And she was right. And that, in a way, is a microcosm of the art of the deal, or at least a portion of the art of the deal. Trump, I don't think he actually thinks he's going to go in there and spend a lot of U.S. tax dollars on clearing out explosives and mines and traps and clearing out rubble and rebuilding Gaza. I think that he's saying, hey, we're going to do it, knowing that the rest of the world, especially the Middle East, would react exactly like they're reacting now. You got legacy media flipping out. You got every Democrat flipping out. You got a good chunk of Republicans flipping out. And not just rhinos either. I mean, actual America First Republicans saying, what's America First about rebuilding Gaza? Right? So this whole concept of the Riviera of the Middle East, look, if it happens, if he actually does follow through with this, then I'll be like shocked, number one. But number two, I'll be like, there's got to be something to it. Because he wouldn't even broach the idea unless he knew something that we didn't know. Because the way that things are now, I don't care. You could put Trump Towers and Dubai-style buildings and casinos and parks. You could make it into a paradise, and you're still not going to get a whole lot of people that'll go there. Not at least for a generation or two, right? Well, again, he has these ideas. But it's not just the rebuilding of Gaza. That's the part that I think has a lot of people concerned. But the other aspect of it is taking the people that are the Gazans, and taking them elsewhere. And that has a lot of people freaking out, especially if you look at ones that aren't publicly freaking out, like Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia has come out, they were on the verge of signing a deal. Had Trump won a second term, I think they would have. Second term in 2020. I think they would have signed on to the Abraham Accords. But because Trump lost, I think that they realized, maybe he wasn't as strong as we thought. We need to stick to our guns and push for a Palestinian state, push for a two-state solution. And that's what they've done. And they've said that that's now become, unfortunately, that's become a red line for them. They won't sign an agreement with Israel until there's a two-state solution. And I think that could change. And perhaps this talk about Gaza, maybe that is the catalyst to engineer such change. I had mentioned earlier in the show that Pam Bondi has been confirmed, and she got all the Republican votes, which is good. A little surprising there, but I thought maybe she could get one or two defectors. But she also got a Democrat vote. She got John Fetterman to vote for. John Fetterman is a Democrat. A lot of people saying he's kind of a Republican. It's like, no, he's not. He's definitely not a Republican. Okay. He's an open-minded Democrat. I would say he's an old school Democrat. He's a Democrat because don't forget, there was a time not too long ago when like Hillary Clinton, and she was against crime, she was opposed to criminals. And you had Joe Biden, who was vehemently opposed to illegal aliens. Don't forget, even Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, both in 2008, they both ran on the idea that marriage was between a man and a woman. It's insane to think now, considering what we know, but just 17 years ago, these radical leftists of today were basically sort of moderate. And I think that John Fetterman just harkens back. I don't know if it's a stroke or what, because his wife is a full-blown communist, and we know that she guides a lot of his actions. So what's changed? Why is he all of a sudden sounding like a 1994 Democrat instead of a 2025 Democrat? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But back to Pam Bondi. Hit the ground running? She sure as heck did. According to TheRightScoop.com, new Attorney General Pam Bondi freezes all federal funding to sanctuary cities. Yes. I got to do the other hand. Yes. According to the article, new Attorney General Pam Bondi just issued a directive to freeze all federal funding to sanctuary cities, according to Fox News. Bondi issued a slew of directives today, but this one will surely get a lot of attention. It was near the bottom of the article by Fox News, so I'll put it up at the top of mine. And as for illegal migrants, Bondi has directed the DOJ to pause all federal funding for sanctuary cities. Bondi has also directed the DOJ to identify and evaluate all funding agreements with non-government organizations, yes, that provide support to illegal aliens. I don't want them just defunded, by the way. I want the NGOs investigated, charged, arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. Members of the NGOs that work to break our laws, to steal our sovereignty, and to assist in the invasion of our nation. I think it needs more than just defunding them, but that's just me. She's also litigating components of the Justice Department to investigate instances of jurisdictions that are impeding law enforcement and directing they be prosecuted when necessary. You can definitely expect a lawsuit to be filed soon because these sanctuary cities spend a lot of taxpayer money and they won't be happy about being denied federal funds. And I'm not going to go into more about it, but yeah, you get the idea. Pam Bondi hitting the ground running. Good on her. And let's face it, all of them did. Okay? I mean, so far, all of Trump's major picks they get in there and they just start going. Marco Rubio was on a plane like day one, right? Secretary of State, I guess I need to go fly somewhere. You can't get any better than that, right? People are just doing things. Speaking of doing things, and you know what? I'm going to skip that story for now. I want to get back to it. That story being DOGE and USAID. I want to spend a lot more time on that particular story. But do I want to tackle this story? I do. We're going to tackle this story. Let me swoosh in. Federal government funneled millions in tax dollars to leftist news outlets Politico and New York Times, and a whole lot more. This is good stuff. According to SlayNews.com, when this story first hit, not from Slay News, but when I first saw that I saw a post by, I forgot who it was. I thought, oh my gosh, Elon Musk needs to see this. And then all of a sudden, Elon Musk reposted it. It's like, okay, cool. He's on it. Oh, yeah, Politico. Poor Politico. An alarming paper trail has revealed that American taxpayers have been handing millions of dollars over to quote-unquote news outlets, Politico and the New York Times, to push leftist anti-Trump propaganda. Tax dollars have been secretly funneled into the outlets via U.S. federal government agencies. The funding was exposed after staffers at Politico revealed on Tuesday that their paychecks hadn't been received. What happened? Why did Politico not have any money? Because the government didn't give them the money. Politico told employees their paychecks were delayed due to a technical error, which supposedly caused a payroll issue. According to Max Tanny, who I have no idea who is this person. I don't know who that is, but staff at Politico did not get paid for the latest pay period. The company just sent several emails to employees saying it believes there was a technical error and is looking into how to fix the error. They lied, in other words. Wow. That's awful. However, the payroll issue emerged shortly after President Donald Trump's administration put a freeze on the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. We don't call it USAID, by the way, because that's not true. There's no aid there. USAID funding. The freeze came after investigations by the Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency uncovered major corruption at USAID, and that's been uncovered for a long time. It just got noticed by a government agency finally, and that agency happened to be DOGE. The timing led to many questioning whether Politico was being propped up by taxpayer dollars from USAID. The suggestion that the Politico paycheck delayed and the USAID freeze were prompted internet sleuths to look at the news outlet's sources of funding. According to the government spending tracker website usaspending.gov, Politico received up to $27 million, and by some counts $32 million, from various U.S. agencies during the Biden years. Notably, Politico laundered the anti-Trump 51 intel officials' propaganda regarding Hunter Biden's laptop during the 2020 election, and we actually talked about that the other day. The paper trail also uncovered another shocking and blatant attempt to misuse taxpayer funds. Listed under a disaster emergency fund, over $500,000 was paid for the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to Politico for 37 Politico Pro subscriptions. Wow. That's not bad. $500,000. You can get 37 entire pro subscriptions to an online publication. Sounds like a deal made in D.C. Elon Musk highlighted the huge payment, remarking that it was odd. Definitely odd there. Zero Hedge noted that Politico was sold to German media giant Axel Springer, which also owns Business Insider, for $1 billion in 2021. As such, American taxpayer dollars have been flowing to the German media giant to prop up its U.S. propaganda efforts. And praise God, those propaganda efforts, for the most part, didn't work, at least during the election. And it's funny because, what's her name? Carrie Lake, who is now part of the Trump administration. Carrie Lake noted that, she said Politico posted at least 50 hit pieces against her. 50 hit pieces against Carrie Lake. And technically speaking, it seems like she paid for those hit pieces. Her taxpayer dollars, our taxpayer dollars, were used to attack Republican candidates like Carrie Lake. Strange. In addition, I'm not going to read the rest. You get the idea. So you can find this over at slaynews.com. What do you think? What are your thoughts there? Everybody's been quiet today, by the way, in chat. I know I haven't been paying much attention, but every time I look over, it's like, oh, I got to get caught up on chat, and there's nothing there. It's like, what? Why is everybody so quiet? Can they hear me? Am I on? Is this thing on? Pop, pop, pop. I don't know. If you are new, by the way, new to the channel, or even if you're old to the channel, let's say you've been on the channel for a long time, and let's say you're on YouTube or Rumble, X, BitChute, Brighteon, Getter, wherever you're hearing me right now, I ask that you subscribe. You don't have to pay anything. I'm not going to ask you for money. You can give money to my sponsors. But I will ask that you subscribe and you give me a thumbs up. And if you want to give me a thumbs down, you can. It will hurt my feelings. But I'm okay with that. I'm an American male. And as an American male, my feelings don't get hurt very easily. So, like it, thumb it up. Or if you don't, fine. Free country. But I really want you to like it. Look, can't you like it? All right, let's. Speaking of DOGE, you got this story. This one blew me away because look, I expect the left to be unhinged. Right now, they're in. Let me pause this for a second. They're coping. They're coping any way they can. I mean, they were devastated. We've seen videos, and I know. Look, we can make fun of them all we want. We can get a chuckle out of it. There's that one lady. I mean, I've never seen basically a more pretentious lady on a TikTok video in my life. She was probably in her, I don't know, maybe 50s, maybe 60s. She's probably in her 40s, actually. I found that being a leftist, you seem to age faster, or at least in appearance. So she was telling this story. She was like, yeah, I've had a lot of interactions. This was on election day, by the way, like in the middle of the election in November. She's like, yeah, I've had a lot of interactions today, but my favorite one I just had, I went to the liquor store to get champagne for my victory celebration tonight, and I went in there and I was telling the guy, I'm getting the champagne because Kamala Harris is definitely going to win, and he's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, still it's kind of early, and she's like, look, I'm a political scientist. I'm a political commentator, so I know these things. And she is definitely going to win. So I'm getting this champagne. And he didn't say it, but I could tell he was a Trump supporter. Boy, he's going to be so mad. Oh, he's going to be so sad while I'm drinking my champagne. He's going to be crying. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cringe. What poor lady, you know? And I saw this other one. This guy, again, it was on election day. And I saw this one recently. I couldn't believe I missed it. But on election day, he posted a video, again, in the middle of everything, saying, you know, explaining why the female vote, the women's vote, is guaranteeing. It's going to guarantee the victory. And I mean, he's saying, you know, any of you MAGA people out there, you bookmark this. You know, I'm telling you, this is definitely going to happen. I've been analyzing the numbers. You know, Kamala Harris is going to win probably every single swing state and blah, 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 blah. And we should actually know, we're going to have the answers before the end of the night. We're actually going to have a winner. That's how much she's going to win by. And, you know, I've done an analysis of the female vote, and you know, there's so many people out there that are voting to murder babies. You know, we as a people, we want to murder babies, as many babies as possible. Just kill them all, I say. But wipe the drool off my mouth. I mean, this guy was an idiot, right? The point I'm trying to get at is, we see the screaming, we see the hollering, we see the protests about ICE raids, we see the protests that are apparently going on about Elon Musk and DOGE. And I had asked shortly after the election, where were the protests? I thought, you know, okay, this is weird. I thought that they were going to burn everything down. I thought it was going to be another summer of love a la George Floyd after President Trump won, and that didn't really happen. So what in the world are the globalists doing? Oh, they must be waiting for Inauguration Day. And I think they might have been, but then bad weather and smart moves by President Trump moved the inauguration indoors. So maybe, I don't know. But now we are starting to see a more concerted effort to protest. But I don't know if there's any real passion there. I think it's being manufactured. And we could tell this, by the way. Here's a quick... How passionate are they? Let's see if they're willing to go out in the cold.
So there's supposed to be more anti-Elon, anti-Doge protests out here at the U.S. Capitol tonight, and you can see it's extremely quiet. People packing up their signs and going home because they were canceled. The protests were canceled because it's too cold outside. You would think when you're calling somebody literally Hitler and Trump and Elon are Nazis, you'd think that maybe it's a little bit cold outside. It's like 36 degrees. You'd still come out if you actually believe these people were Hitler. They're just regurgitating talking points from the mainstream media, from the legacy media, telling them to say these things, and they don't believe any of them at the end of the day. It's all a big farce. A farce that the American people are no longer believing. That time is over. The legacy media has lost their grip. The Democrats have lost the plot totally. And you can see it's just not working. It's one of the quietest nights out here at the Capitol that I've seen in a very, very long time. So take that as you wish.
Now, don't dismiss it, though. Just because they didn't go out doesn't mean they're not going to go crazy. And they are in the process of going crazy. Truth Pursuit says, I think we're just all shell-shocked by the onslaught of news. I'm not alone. This has been the craziest 2.5 weeks of my life as a journalist. Okay? 3 decades on and off, I've been a journalist. I've never seen, nothing even remotely close to this. 9/11, there's more news. Not necessarily as big a news, obviously. Maybe as big a news. But there's definitely more news. Every time, every story that comes out is like, oh my gosh, I've got to write it. Oh, wait, never mind. It's changed. Not only is the news coming in, but then the news is different. It's like breaking news. Trump is going to put tariffs on Canada and China. And then, oh wait, no, never mind. China and Mexico and China too, but darn it, I ruined the joke. You know where I was going with that. All right. Let's get there's a reason why I'm not a comedian. Let's get to this article over at Breitbart. Dead or alive, Boston University employee threatens Elon Musk's Doge staffers. Dead or alive. It's not like, hey, we need to investigate. When I get really mad at somebody, really mad at somebody. When I get mad at Anthony Fauci, I say he needs to be investigated, charged, arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. And he's done tremendous evil to people that I know. Okay. I have one friend who, based upon the advice of people like Anthony Fauci, he is dead. So, but even then, I'm not saying get Anthony Fauci dead or alive. Well, these enlightened folks at the Boston University is from Alana Mastrangello. I always forget how to pronounce her name. Mastrangello. Boston University assistant media technician Jared May took to the leftist echo chamber social media platform Blue Sky to post a wanted dead or alive image featuring the names and photos of Elon Musk's DOGE employees. The university's weak response was that the views expressed do not reflect the values of Questrom School of Business. Wow. How about fire him? In his Blue Sky post, May listed off the names of 6 individuals he said are the men carrying out Musk's coup and shared an image featuring their photos alongside the words wanted for treason, dead or alive. May, whose social media post went viral on X, appears to have since deleted his LinkedIn account, which noted that he is an assistant media technician in Boston University's Questron School of Business, Cicelo Business Center. Elon Musk also reacted to May's remarks on Blue Sky in a Tuesday post, writing, he has committed a crime, and he obviously has. Breitbart News reached out to Boston University to request comment from the school on May's social media activity and to inquire if the university plans to assist law enforcement with investigations into their employees' threats. And they said through a spokesperson, they said, we are aware of a post made by an employee on his personal social media account. We do not comment on personnel matters. The spokesperson added that the employee's views do not reflect the school's values, yada, 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 yada. Now, I guarantee if they had said that, that same guy had said the same thing in October of last year about Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or any members of the Harris campaign, he would be gone in a heartbeat. Because Elon Musk is apparently Hitler, since he works for Trump, who is apparently Satan. At least they would consider him to be Satan if they believed in the Bible. It's okay to talk bad about them, to threaten their lives or the lives of the people that work for them. The hypocrisy is so thick, and it's not just coming from these woke college people, college administrators, or whatever position he is. It's coming from Democrat politicians. It's coming from legacy media. Caroline Levitt called them out for it today.
If you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
She's not the only one, though, that's talking about it. And she's not the only one with a message to the left. I have a lot of messages for the left. But there was one person who had a message for the right, a message directed at Elon Musk himself. And it's, well, let me just play it. I'm not going to try to set this one up. It's Rob Schneider, the comedian, the actor, the patriot.
Elon Musk, I have this to say to you on behalf of the American people. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been incredible. We really appreciate it. Keep going. You can do it.
He really is legitimately funny, by the way. Very funny guy. Especially when he's talking about like non-political issues. He's funny when he's talking about politics too. But when he's not talking about politics, he's actually legitimately hilarious. One more video, quick video. This time, it's talking about, at the core of this is USAID, which I'm going to talk about again for the third time this show, Lord willing, close to the end of the show. But we've got other stories to get to, but I do want to throw this one out there because this is, for people who maybe aren't fully aware, this is the source. This is where all of the complaints are coming from. Okay? It's not about, like you would think that Elon Musk talking about the Department of Education, President Trump talking about the Department of Education. Oh my gosh, talk about a sacred cow amongst Democrats, right? No, they're really legitimately more concerned about USAID. And you got to ask why. We already know the answer to why, and I'll explain that here in a bit. But let's go to Stephen Miller explaining the entrenched power center.
They've rallied around the biggest losing rallying cry of all time, which is going to war for a swamp nest of bureaucrats at an agency called the U.S. Agency for International Development. Not American development, not developing East Palestine, Ohio, not developing the forgotten communities in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not developing the border towns in Texas that have been run over by an illegal alien invasion for 4 years under Biden, but developing countries all over the world except our own. There's probably no entity in the government that is more of an entrenched power center of unelected bureaucrats with less accountability, less oversight than USAID. They funnel money to their cronies all over the world through a swampy network of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and cutouts, including potentially some very troubling elements of focusing on things like regime change and destabilizing foreign countries. But this is not about America's interests. Donald Trump is courageously restoring democracy. Article 2 of the executive branch vests all power by the Constitution. Article 2 of the Constitution vests all power of the executive branch in a president. It's known as the vesting clause. It says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular, not in the bureaucracy, not in unelected, lifetime tenured career civil servants. Americans voted for one man, Donald J. Trump. They didn't vote for a single bureaucrat at USAID. They voted for Donald Trump to make government accountable to the taxpayer, to make government accountable for them. If the Democrats are saying, as they are, that President Trump cannot implement his agenda at USAID, that Donald Trump cannot fire recalcitrant bureaucrats, what they are saying, what Democrats are saying, is they oppose democracy itself. They oppose the idea that the American people can elect a man, in this case, our President Donald Trump, to reform the government according to the will of the people. This is a battle between the will of the people through their President Donald Trump and the will of an unelected federal bureaucracy. So we and President Trump are on the side of democracy.
I'm so glad he's back in the White House. You know, between him, there's a few others that I really like. Obviously, I've talked ad nauseum about how Tom Homan's the guy that if I ever had to adopt somebody, adopt another human being and take care of them and nurture them, feed them, water them, all that stuff, it'd be Tom Homan. That guy just deserves it. But Stephen Miller's up there, Darren Beatty's up there. There's a lot of members of the administration that I really like. I like on a personal level, not just about what they're doing, but I actually like them as people. But who cares? Why? You have to stop and ask yourself. And this is a message that's not just for you, my audience. Relay this message to any leftist friends that you have out there. Why is there all this hoopla about Elon Musk and USAID, about DOGE and USAID? And it's threefold. Okay, there's really three primary reasons why they're going after DOGE, why they're trying to defend USAID. And when I say they, I'm talking about the Democrats and the members of the Uniparty swamp. So there are Republicans who are out there as well doing the exact same thing. Number one, they are going after DOGE because it's the ultimate distraction. In other words, they are terrified of what people will think if they learn the truth about USAID, and not just USAID, all of it, to be clear, but in particular, for now, USAID. Now, there's going to come a time when that's actually going to be secondary, and they're preparing us for the next rounds. It's perfect. Liberty Talk, I love you. This is perfect. Exactly. In the chat, Liberty Talk says, because the DOGE is about to begin exposing the Medicaid fraud. For those who haven't been seeing, yes, Elon Musk went onto X earlier today and noted, somebody was talking about the massive amounts of Medicaid fraud, and he's like, yep. He's like, yep. That is the big one. Okay. That's the big one. And not just Medicaid, but that's, it's funny. Like, that's the big one. It's like, oh yeah, like they're all big. USAID is the first big one. Now, granted, it happens to be the most secretive. It happens to be the most corrupted. It happens to be the most misunderstood. Like when we say Medicaid fraud or IRS fraud or COVID fraud or anything else that they're going to uncover, Lord willing, nobody's shocked, not even on the left. They're not shocked by that. USAID, on the other hand, because they've built this reputation, this false reputation of having something to do with actual aid, that's why. Okay, that's a shocker. Everything else will be like, oh, wow, yeah, they found Medicaid fraud. Oh, the only thing that's going to be shocking about it is when people hear how much that is. So number one, why are they so fixated on Elon Musk and DOGE? Why are they so terrified of USAID's this exposure, unexpected exposure? They didn't realize he was going to actually do it. Okay, if they thought that he was actually going to do it, they would have been freaking out long ago. But they thought, oh, they're just going to talk big, and then Elon Musk will go back to launching rockets. They didn't realize that, holy crap, he's actually doing what he said he was going to do. So number one, it is a huge distraction. They can get their people in legacy media, get their people amongst Democrats and amongst neocons and amongst, the people that are paying attention but unaware, if that makes any sense. They get focused on Elon Musk. That way you're not looking at the pure evil that USAID does. Okay? It is pure evil. What they do is they are the action arm from a financial perspective of the deep state, the foreign affairs wing of it, so to speak. Okay? CIA goes and they handle certain things. They cut deals. They do whatever. USAID is what makes it all happen. It's like, hey, we need to have a spot here. We need to control this guy. Okay? So to control this guy, we're going to give him money, but we can't just hand him over cash because there's oversight. So his nephew is going to open up a $2 million lemonade stand in Colombia. Okay? And USAID goes in there and they make it nicer. They make it actually sort of work, at least on paper. Well, now that you've got somebody who's actually looking at the paper and asking questions about what's on the paper, now USAID is exposed. So that's number one. Number two, they being especially the Democrats and many Republicans, so the uniparty swamp, they don't want their own involvement, their own pet projects that have been funded by our government. They don't want that exposed. Why do you think Politico was so vehemently against? They're supposed to be, barely left-leaning. That was their motif. It's like, yeah, we lean a little to the left, but we're mostly unbiased. But then all of a sudden, they started becoming, far, far left. Okay, we're talking like Salon or The Nation. Okay, think of it like this: they were sort of like CNN switching over to be to the left of MSNBC all of a sudden. They were terrified, and now we know why. Because they were getting paid. Truth Pursuit note, and that's an important thing to note. Truth Pursuit says USAID started out as a truly philanthropic organization, but limited oversight allowed evil to flourish. Every government program, yes. And Bubba Trading says, sounds like every government program, best of intentions. 1947, when USAID was formed by John F. Kennedy, okay, he goes out and he has this vision of being able to advance democracy. They were really supposed to be able to advance democracy through philanthropic means. Okay, that was their goal. That was their intention. That was their mission. But it wasn't just lack of oversight. It was that the CIA looked around and they're like, wait a second. Wait, so you guys can just take money and go build things over there and nobody's asking you questions about the money? Huh. Well, let me ask you this, okay? So let's say we need to control the Shah of Iran, okay? And if we can't go in there and do certain things, we can do some things, we can't do other things. But could you guys build a hospital there in Tehran or something, and we'll name it after this guy's nephew, and it'll cost like $60 million, but you're going to give him $140 million. Is that possible? I mean, can we do that? And USAID is like, well, yeah, sure. Why not? And then CIA is like, then do it. And then USAID is like, well, yeah, but why would... No, do it. And then just like that, not literally, I mean, that's not a true story, by the way. It's a hypothetical. But that hypothetical, or a series of those hypotheticals, is what took, again, what was supposed to be truly legitimately advancing democracy and serving the national interest of the United States along the way. Let's help our enemies until they're our friends. Or let's take somebody who might eventually become our enemy and let's help them so that they become our friend. It's very Godfather-like, Be my friend. Be my friend. We're going to build a hospital. There may come a time when we might need you to let us put. You get the idea. So, yeah. Anyway, so thank you, Liberty Talk, for that compliment. It's this kind of stuff is happening all around us. Okay? It has turned into pure evil. And almost every single member on Capitol Hill, anybody who's been there for longer than, say 10 years, for sure, they have had a pet project. And I would say a lot of them didn't even realize it, but they've had something done with their approval, in their name, with their donors or their cousin or their whoever. They have been compromised by the CIA through USAID. It's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. We talk, oh look, they're making like Sesame Street in Iraq or whatever, and all these various reports are coming out, right? Carolyn Leavitt is putting out these reports. But the crazy part is that a lot of times this stuff goes back to controlling politicians here. The CIA doesn't have to do anything to control our politicians. They use their other weapons, such as USAID, to do all of that. Crazy stuff. Crazy. Oh, and then number 3, there's a third reason that they're freaking out. It's because the globalist elite cabal are saying, do something. Freak out because we're freaking out. Do something. We didn't think he was going to do it. We thought, oh my gosh, he's going to go, he's going to go look at some things and maybe he might reform, something, but then he's going to go back and he's going to launch rockets and make like self-driving taxi cabs. Oh my gosh, he's actually looking, holy crap. What if oh my gosh. Get Schumer on the line. He's got to go scream at somebody. Oh, get Pocahontas. She's got to go scream at people. This is awful. This is awful. Get Politico. Oh, they know about Politico? Yeah. They're freaking out. They're freaking out over DOGE. They're freaking out over Elon Musk. They're freaking out over Donald Trump. They're freaking out over Gaza. They're freaking out over everything. I think part of the strategy, at least a little bit of it, of this, and if this is truly, whoever came up with this was brilliant. Part of the strategy is, it's like, hey, we want to do certain things, and the way that you do it is you do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And then somebody, probably Trump himself, but maybe his advisor said, you know what? What if we just do it all at once? Okay? What if we just do it all? You just throw it all out there. And then by the time they're done sorting through and ripping on all that stuff and filing their lawsuits against these 200 executive orders and doing all this and doing all that, when they're finally done, we'll have another bucket. We'll dump more on them. I think that the reason that I think that it was President Trump, by the way, is because he was very adamant before the Senate majority leaders were selected. He was very adamant about securing confirmation from Thune, Cornyn, and Scott. Got all three of them to at various degrees acknowledging that they would be open to recess appointments. He wasn't so concerned about not getting his people through. He was more concerned about getting them through quickly. The whole push for recess appointments isn't to try to subvert the Senate. It's to just try to speed it up. That's all he wants. And now we get to understand why. He said, let's just blitz the crap out of Washington, D.C., out of the United States of America. Let's just blitz them with everything that we're going to do. Every populist perspective, let's give it to them. And let's make up some more populist perspectives. Well, sure, but that one won't be conservative. Okay? But the people are going to love it. Trust me, they're going to love it. They might not like it at first, but once they see the results of it, they're going to love it. It's like, well, sir, we should take things slow. He says, no. I did that in 2017. I listened to you people that said, take it slow. I listened to Paul Ryan saying, we'll build the wall after the midterm elections. I listened to Mitch McConnell say, we'll repeal Obamacare after the midterm elections. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know what happened. We thought we were going to win. No, President Trump and his team, whoever's guiding him, they're saying, go. But it's not go like in a haphazard manner. It's not like ready, fire, aim. They had a plan. I mean, this is all working out. And I knock on wood, say a prayer, whatever it is that you want to do. But I don't know if I've had. I don't think I have. I don't think I've had as much fun as a journalist in my life than covering the first 2.5 weeks of the Trump administration. I wake up and I actually want to read the news. I know, I'm not delusional. I know that this isn't going to last for the next 4 years. But while we're here, we might as well enjoy it. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. What you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025, we have gone back to the original ownership structure. And I'm very excited about that because that puts me finally back more in charge. And I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company, that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. We do expect something to happen, which is why We built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high quality, all American, all Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one ingredient, and that's beef. Lasts 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. My gosh, where does the time go? We're at the, hour and 40-minute mark. I still got... Technically, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And no way I'm going to get to all those. I promised in the description we were going to talk about at least 2 more things. So let's get to those, and then we'll see what's left. I really do need to do a 3-hour show. Quick programming note, though. I was expecting to be on Lindell TV this week, and haven't gotten the call yet. So I need to call them tomorrow, figure out what's going on there. But either way, starting tomorrow, Lindell TV or not, I'm going to start doing my hour pre-recorded show, 56 minutes technically. I'm going to be starting that again in the morning, and I'll just send it to them. And if they play it, they play it. If they don't, they don't. But I'm going to definitely be putting it on my channel. And you can always get to both of my channels. I got channel 1, which is jdrucker.com/rumble. Okay. That's where I put my shows. I put clips and my shows on both jdrucker.com/rumble1, the number 1. That's where I'm trying to transition into that being my primary, by the way. It's just like 1/35 the size of the other channel. But also at x.com/JD Rucker. But yeah, we're going to start doing the 56-minute show again in the mornings. It won't be live. I mean, it'll broadcast as live, but I pre-record segments for that one. This show, we're live. We're doing it live, Bill O'Reilly style. Not really, not Bill O'Reilly style, but we're doing it live, Rucker style. So big news, and I'll admit I tried to watch it. I tried to watch the Raw. FCC released the Raw 60 minutes interview with Kamala Harris. I made it about, I don't know, 2 minutes in. I didn't make it past the first question. I mean, it's time to move on. I feel like we need to be unburdened by what has been, and she is definitely a has-been. She's gone. So, Lord willing, this is the last story I'm ever going to do about Kamala Harris, but it's worth talking about. FCC releases Raw 60 minutes train wreck interview with Kamala Harris, and then CBS responds. To be clear, they're being sued, and they're trying to get out of that, being sued by President Trump. The Federal Communications Commission on Wednesday released the Raw 60 minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Last week, it was reported that the FCC is investigating CBS's deceptively edited 60 minutes interview with former Democrat presidential candidate Kamala Harris. President Trump's FCC chair, Brendan Carr, demanded that CBS hand over the unedited transcript of the infamous 60 minutes interview with Kamala Harris. On Wednesday, the FCC released an unedited raw version of Harris's 60 minutes interview, and it's bad. CBS News responded by saying, "We are posting the same transcript and videos of our interview with Vice President Kamala Harris that we provided to the FCC. They show, consistent with 60 Minutes' repeated assurances to the public, that the 60 Minutes broadcast was not doctored or deceitful." It was. I mean, they're flat out lying. It was definitely doctored. They asked a question, or multiple questions. They would ask a question. She would give a word salad response. Then they would clean it up. You know, she might get, and there were times, we saw this. We already saw this. There were times where they would ask her a question. She would give like a 3-minute response, and they would limit her response on what aired on television. They would limit her response to like 9 seconds because that's all they could get. They could only get 9 seconds out of her 3-minute response that they thought wouldn't completely destroy her campaign. That's how awful she was. And as far as whether or not it was deceitful, come on. Come on, stop it. Stop even pretending. Of the three big networks, I guess regular networks, ABC, NBC, CBS. CBS is the worst. I've got complaints about NBC. I've got complaints about ABC. But CBS is just pure stank garbage. They used to be the best, by the way. Back in like the 80s, they were really good. I don't know what happened. Yeah, so that's it. Again, Lord willing, this is the last Kamala Harris story ever on the JD Rucker Show. That's worth a swoosh. All right, let's see what else we've got here. This has been a fun couple of weeks. I love doing this show. I really missed doing my show yesterday, especially on Big Gaza Day. That would have been fun, but oh well. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's always a reason for everything. I'm gonna do this story just because it's along the same vein, even though I didn't list it on the stories. We'll just buzz through it. More winning. Big legal win for Trump against the Pulitzer Committee. And this is by David Strom, one of my favorite writers over at hotair.com. I didn't see this one coming, but it could be a big win for Trump and a grotesque embarrassment for the Pulitzer Prize Committee. I'd forgotten that President Trump was suing the Pulitzer Prize Committee for its celebration of the Washington Post's and New York Times' coverage of the Russian collusion hoax back in 2018. Yes, they won Pulitzer Prizes for reporting on an alleged P-tape that doesn't exist. At the time, it seemed to be a nuisance lawsuit that would amount to very little, and I still think that Trump would be unlikely to win it. But what I missed at the time was that extracting money wasn't really the point. Exposing the corruption of the media. That's the point. Trump doesn't need a few million more here or there, but in the intense war between MAGA and the Pravda media, any communication or any ammunition he can get, especially ammunition he gets to take directly from his opponents, will be a gift, and that the chances are good that the ammunition will be a bunch of 2,000-pound bombs to drop on the heads of media. What a setup. Now, can you tell why I like David Strom? I'm not talking about his opinions. I'm talking about his the way he writes. I as a journalist, I admire when people say things that are compelling. That's all. Whether they say it, online, I can listen to Thomas Sowell. Okay, you just put Thomas Sowell interviews on one long stream and put them in one ear. I could just listen to that all day, and I would feel smarter and dumber at the same time. Smarter because I'm getting such wisdom. Dumber because it's not mine. All right. President is according who's this according to? This is according to somebody else. President Donald Trump racked up his latest legal victory in Florida on Monday after a state judge ruled the Pulitzer Prize Board's internal communications are fair game for discovery in a lawsuit Trump filed over the awards the board gave the New York Times and Washington Post in 2018 for their coverage of Russiagate, the internal communications. And how many times have we seen internal communications, especially text messages and emails, being used to expose the radical left, whether it's in corporate media, whether it's in government, obviously, the WikiLeaks on Podesta and Clinton. Wow. That opened up a whole cottage industry in the conspiracy theory world. These, what they think are private conversations, this is where they can be truthful. Publicly, Pulitzer Prize people are like, well, we have to be unbiased. We have to award those that are exemplary, journalism excellence and blah, 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 blah. But what I suspect we're going to find in these private communications between members of the Pulitzer Board, private communications as they were deciding who to award their Pulitzer Prizes to, I'm sure that we will see stuff that they don't want us to see. We know this because they fought tooth and nail to prevent this from being able to come out through discovery. And once it comes out, then it can be made public through the courts. And once it's made public, we will see, likely, something to the effect of Orange Man bad. This reporting is awful, and it's probably untrue, but man, we really need to stick it to Donald Trump. Again, I'm making this stuff up, but I'm expecting it to be along those lines because, again, they fought tooth and nail to prevent this from coming out. And now they're scurrying away like cockroaches. I gotta get used to the buttons. I need a that's it. I need a producer. I know I'm hard to work with, but I need a producer, somebody who can run the board, run the clips, run the everything else. I'm just not multi-talented enough with my hands. I got screens, I got cameras, I got mic, I got 2 hands, 3 feet, horrible sense of humor, terrible comedic timing. This all makes for bad stuff. One more story that's also not on the list, but definitely worth talking about. I gotta buzz through these. Let's see. Do I have? I think I do. I do. I've got one. So the story is about Trump signing the executive order banning biological males from women's sports. That's awesome. But there was something I noticed in the clip of him actually doing the signing. We have in the Oval Office right now a president of the United States. And in this video that you're about to see, he's surrounded by a bunch of little girls. If Joe Biden were in this situation, it would have gone very differently.
You want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? You ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature because this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Pretty good, huh? I see that. Okay? Good. Now you're going to go out and win those events, right? Nice to see you all. Great going, everybody. Nice to see you. Thank you, kids. Here, take a pen. I'll give some of these out, okay? Take a pen, take a pen.
Thank you so much.
There's 2 takeaways. 2 takeaways from that video. One is obvious. One is not so obvious. The obvious takeaway is that here's a president that surrounded by a bunch of little girls. He didn't grab them. He didn't pull them onto his lap. He didn't try to give them kisses. Didn't sniff their hair. Didn't ask them how old they were. Didn't ask them for their phone number. This president is not Joe Biden. And if Joe Biden were in that exact... Joe Biden, if he was watching this, he's probably like, my gosh, wow, I wish I was still president. I should have signed an executive order like that if I could have been in that situation. So for the first time in 4 years, we don't have an absolute creep in the White House. That's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2, though, and this is a subtle reality about Donald Trump that you won't see in the vast majority, and when I say the vast majority, I would say less than 1% of politicians would have reacted the way that he did. Let me play that part one more time. I want to see if you guys notice it. This is why I need a producer, because they would have been able to isolate this. Let's try it, though. We're going to try it. Hold on. I'm going to fast forward to the part.
You want to do this? Watch what.
See it? So the thing that struck me that most politicians wouldn't do, that he did, He's surrounded by these people, these people that he's signing this executive order to protect these girls. He's signing this is their executive order. And when he's done signing it, every other politician, 99% of other politicians in that exact situation would have taken it and they would have shown it to the camera first, but not President Trump. This isn't for them, the people in, the press, or this isn't for him. This isn't to show off him signing this executive order. He takes the executive order and he shows the girls that are surrounding him. He shows them first and then, oh yeah, by the way, see here, yeah. I mean, it's subtle. I get it. And yeah, am I reading too much into it? Oh, I'm sure I am. But I also know with a near certainty that if Joe Biden or anybody, I don't care, Marco Rubio, the JD Vance, I mean, literally anybody else, they sign it, they show the camera, and then they might show everybody else around them. But Trump was signing this for those girls that were there. He's signing it for girls across the nation. He's not signing it for the press. He's not signing it for his legacy. He's not signing it for anything like that. I've been critical of President Trump and his motivations it's been a long time. But I have come to realize that I was wrong. That he really does truly want to help these people. He wants to help you. He wants to help me. Now, is he unaware of his own legacy or his own history? Does he not want to be the greatest president of all time, as history will see him for hundreds or thousands of years? Is that not on his mind? No, of course it is. He's human. But he doesn't think along those lines, not while he's in the moment. That's so important. That's such a difference maker. Let's get to the actual news before I start getting before I start talking in too low of a voice. Get emotional. According to the article by Hannah Nightingale over at thepostmillennial.com, surrounded by female athletes of all ages in the White House on Wednesday, Trump signed the No Men in Women's Sports executive order into law. Speaking ahead of the signing, Trump said it was about common sense and that we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women. Under the executive order, schools receiving federal funding risk having their funds stripped if they allow biological males to participate in women's sports. I don't think we've missed anything, but if we do, we'll make it up very quickly with an order. This is one where, my gosh, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's one of those things where, if you ever start to doubt whether we're going to make it as a society, it's when we do see these huge dudes beating up on girls in sports. I mean, that to me, and it's not just that they're doing it, it's that it's allowed. Is that it's embraced by 20, 30, 40%? I don't know what the percentages are, but a large percentage of the people. Truth Pursuit says, in regards to that video, it's not just how Trump acted around the girls. It was also how the girls acted around Trump. Good point. They were all relaxed and happy. Not so with the young girls around Biden. Holy cow. Talk about uncomfortable. I mean, watching these girls, they could just sense it when they were around Biden. I mean, his whole predator vibe, he exuded it. I mean, it was like a body odor after not having bathed for 3 months. I mean, it was just on him. Even if they were young and had no idea what could possibly happen to them, they were like, oh, stay away from me, creep. All right. That's another one. We're going to talk about Joe Biden again, I'm sure, at some point in the future, because he is going to remain in the news. Kamala Harris, we might be able to put behind this, but we're not going to be able to put put Joe and his crime family behind us just because they're too deeply embedded, too much going on with them. But we sure can try. All right, State Department. How much time do I got? Oh, crap. We're not going to rush through it, but yeah. This falls under the category of, we got a whole lot of stories. There's 3 categories of stories that have been coming out for the last 2.5 weeks. There's the stories that are really no big deal, or maybe they're no big deal. They are taken by the press and blown way out of proportion, or misunderstood completely, or misreported completely. We got the stories that are reported appropriately, and then we got the stories that are reported but are bombshells that get missed. And I think this is one of those, I don't know about bombshell, but this one will have a lasting impact, and it's actually stage 2. Okay, stage 2. State Department says the U.S. government's vessels are allowed to travel through the Panama Canal without fees. Now you might be thinking, how's that a bombshell? We have to look back to stage 1 first. Stage 1 of the negotiations, when Marco Rubio went down to Panama to talk to them and say, oh, don't worry, we're not going to send the military in just yet, even though we could, by the way. Did you know that we could? I don't know if anybody knew this. Technically speaking, we can take over the Panama Canal. That was part of the agreement. If it was a threat to the United States security for us to not, in other words, our army is allowed to go down and take control of the Panama Canal and the 10 miles in either direction. Just saying, we can do it. And if there is a national threat or a threat to our national interest, we have that in the agreement that we have with Panama, which I'm sure Marco Rubio highlighted that to them, which is why they cut off China and their designation of working for the Silk Road Initiative. So that was stage 1. Stage 2 is this. And again, seems like a minor story, but it's not. Not when we know stage 1, and more importantly, not when we know stage 3. But let's get to stage 2 first. This is the river. Sorry, this is the turn. I got stuck on the river because it's Canal. If you play Texas Hold'em, this is the turn. Then okay, the Department of State. The Department of State announced on Wednesday that the United States government vessels would be allowed to travel through the Panama Canal without facing charge fees. In a post on X, the Department of State highlighted how, since U.S. government ships would no longer face fees, this would save the U.S. millions of dollars a year. You might be thinking, that's not a big deal, is it? But it is. Hold on. U.S. government vessels can now transit the Panama Canal without charge fees, saving the U.S. government millions of dollars a year. They said the announcement from the Department of State comes as President Donald Trump has remained adamant about the U.S. retaking control of the Panama Canal. In December, Trump threatened to retake the Panama Canal and has accused Panama of ripping off the U.S. and charging U.S. ships exorbitant transit fees. Trump has also accused Panama of allowing China to have control over the Panama Canal. Panamanian President Jose Raul Molina has also remained adamant that every square meter of the Panama Canal and its adjacent zones belongs to Panama and will continue to do so. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has shared Trump's concerns over the possibility of China's influence over the Panama Canal, recently suggested to Molina that the Trump administration could seize control of the Panama Canal on grounds that the Panamanian government has violated the agreement that gives the country control over the waterway. Crazy stuff. So stage 1, send the message not just to Panama, but also have Panama send the message to China that things are changing. Stage 2, get the money involved, the financial aspect of it involved. You're going to allow us to transit, and it's going to cost you millions of dollars. Now you might be thinking, in a world, in a nation where we have DOGE out there saving billions of dollars seemingly every single day, what's a few million? Why is this such a big deal? It's not a big deal with the amount of money that it saves us. It's a big deal with the amount of money that Panama, is not getting. That money is more important to them. It holds more value to them. And this gives us the opportunity to once again witness the art of the deal, because I do believe that stage 3 of this is going to be to where the United States says, fine, let's start the art of the deal, start negotiations at, hey, we want to take control, send Marco Rubio down saying, hey, we need you to get China out of there. And oh, by the way, we could take control if we wanted to. You don't have a military. We do. And then 3, hey, why don't you just let us use it? We just won't pay you any money. How's that sound? And they're like, okay, I guess so. Where the art of the deal comes in is in that third stage, which we're going to be coming into. With that third stage, they come in and say, hey, all right, fine. You guys retain control. But why don't we help you? And we'll even pay to help you. We'll pay more money than you were making off fees, and we will help you to control and manage the Panama Canal. It's still yours. It's still yours. Think of it like if this was a hotel, you would own the hotel. We would just be the hotel managers. But instead of you paying us, we're going to pay you. What do you think about that? How about them apples? I think the setup is pretty clear. And I think that the timing of this is perfect because we do, with the Panama Canal is the only way to avoid having to go around South America. And if in the geopolitical scheme of things, that makes huge decisions for people. In other words, there are things that won't happen if they feel that they have to go through a U.S.-controlled Panama Canal again, because unlike in the past, it's not like, we've got to send hundreds of people on board to see if you're smuggling this or smuggling that. No, we can actually do that from the port itself. As you're traveling through the Panama Canal, we can look at pretty much everything that you're doing. We can see if you're smuggling weapons. We can see if you're cheating, lying, stealing. We can see a whole lot. And we can charge you for access to it. And we can deny you, China, access to it. This is a game changer. So when I say this is a bombshell, it's not because of what the millions of dollars. The story is, we don't have to pay fees. That's not the story. That's just that's the initial story. That's where we get started. Where the story ends is, yes, we will have de facto control over the Panama Canal without having to send in any troops unless we need to for defense and without having to exchange a whole lot of money. This is, once again, the art of the deal. All right, that's what we got. Again, I can't forget to remind you, or because I did, I forgot the entire first 2 hours of the show, to remind you that we did pick up a new sponsor. It's a two-way sponsorship. I just earlier played the beef, Prepper Farms. But we've also partnered with the InfoWars store. But it goes in both directions. Yes, they are selling our long-term storage freeze-dried beef. And yes, I am helping to promote the store. You can go to jdrucker.com/InfoWars, jdrucker.com/InfoWars, and it'll just be like you went there just directly. The only difference is that not only will you be helping Alex Jones and InfoWars, you'll also be helping the JD Rucker Show simultaneously, and you won't have to pay a penny extra above and beyond that. So, Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.